Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Carson, and if you're new here, I'm a recently admitted AA student and I'll be attending NSU this May. In this video, I want to go over my 5 essential tips for doing well in the AA school application and surviving the cycle. So let's hop into tip number 1. Utilize your resources. And this includes a lot of things, and I'm going to make a separate video about this because it's really important to know the resources available to you, and sometimes it's not always clear or it can take some time to find those. I'm going to look over here because I have some notes. For YouTubers, there's CAA Lifestyle with Chabeli, Anesthesia Sal, and then Anesthesiologist, which I really like his videos just to learn more about anesthesia. He's really great, which is Dr. Max Feinstein. And then there's a new YouTuber, Jesse Hayward, who is a upcoming CAA student. And there's a podcast called The Awakened Anesthetist. She's a very experienced CAA, and she has a great podcast talking about the career, and she even talks about some of the political progress going on in the profession, which is awesome, or the legislative process. And then so Instagram, I think Instagram's a great resource because you can follow all the programs, and they have a lot of amazing info about open houses and virtual events, that sort of thing. Some of the students make videos, and it's fun to see and get excited about it. And then another Instagram account that's amazing to follow is Anesthesia One Source. And they also have a website. They make all these little infographics with tuition breakdowns from all the schools or time limits from all the schools. And they also post information about open houses for programs and virtual events that programs host. So it's amazing resource. I love Anesthesia One Source. They do some online application help. It's expensive, so I didn't do it, but it's available if you want. And you can purchase some application checklists for prerequisites from them. Oh, and then also, of course, I should talk about the Discord, the CAA Discord. They have a whole section for pre-AA students, so that you can talk about applications, you can talk just about anything related to your application or your feelings, anything. And then also they have a section called Success Stories, which is where students that got in post all their stats, and it's a really nice breakdown. Just be careful, don't compare yourself too much. I know it's really easy to do, but just try your best to just take it more informative, and don't think of it as something set in stone. Application cycles change a lot from cycle to cycle, so don't take it as the gospel or something like that. Substitute advice from medical school or PA school for AA school. Med school headquarters, they do a lot of application help, interview help, that sort of thing. And I think it's safe to say you can kind of substitute whatever they say medical school to AA school for the most part. So I found their advice on what to wear for your interviews super helpful, or just their personal statement book I actually purchased and I loved, and I followed that for my personal statement, and as well as activity description advice. So many free resources, as well as a lot of paid resources, which obviously I don't think you need, but if you're wanting that, then it's available. And then also, I think the same thing with med school is you can kind of do that for PA school applications and interviews, etc. So for my interviews, I actually used a PA interview guide book. And I thought that was super helpful. So I think too, if you find some PA school application advice that's helpful, I think it's safe to say it's probably going to be helpful as well for the AA school application. Apply as early as you can. So when the application opens for that school, which is different for all the schools, make sure you apply as soon as you can to that opening date. It's rolling admissions, and it is important. I will say, obviously people get in when they apply later in the cycle, but you want to give yourself the best chance you can. And something like applying on time is, I think, the easiest way to do that, right? You've worked so hard up to this point. I think that could be the easiest thing you do to help your application. It's really important to start preparing your application as early as you can, and not necessarily having to finish the application, but at least getting started and starting to brainstorm ideas, especially for things like the personal statement and activities description. They can be hard to get right sometimes. They require a lot of drafts to be done, a lot of edits to be done, maybe by even other editors than yourself. For me, the hardest part was really just getting started. And so I think by doing it a little early and kind of understanding that it's probably not going to be a good draft, that kind of helped me just start writing, just getting started. Another thing that you can start preparing is your letter of recs. So I think you can reach out to your intended letter of rec writers and start asking them and kind of giving them a plan for going forward. Okay, lastly, it's important to do your best not to kind of box yourself in with your test dates. So that goes for the MCAT, the GRE, and the Casper. Like, try not to push them too late into when you want to apply, because obviously things can happen. You don't get the score you want, or you need to reschedule for whatever reason. I think the most important thing is to get your application in close to the opening of the application time. So because it's rolling admissions. Especially because when you take the exam, you have to factor in when you're going to get that score back and when you can report scores. For instance, like the MCAT and the GRE can take like a couple weeks to a month to get back, and the Casper I think is about 2 or 3 weeks. So you just want to factor those times in as well. Take care of yourself. 100% take care of yourself. It's a hard process. Like, don't minimize your feelings. Like, it's tough. You know, I think for me, I kind of envisioned it as a door that I was like trying to get open, like let me into that like next chapter of my professional life. And I think that could be a hard feeling when you feel like all of your work led up to this moment. I'm going to make, I think, a whole separate video about this as well, because it is a huge part of my application journey, was just managing the stress and the emotions of it all. I've been even making some YouTube shorts tapping into that more. So go look at that if you're curious. I touched upon this in my school list video, but I would say if your goal is to get into AA school and you don't mind going, you know, to any state really to go to school, I would say apply to as many schools as you're qualified to apply to, which means like you have the test scores, you are close to meeting all the prerequisites, like you're going to fulfill all of them by the time you matriculate. That sort of thing, like the basic requirements. I would do that just to give yourself the best chance of getting in. I know it's more expensive, but the problem is it will be way more expensive to have to reapply that next year. It would help probably with the stress of the application cycle as well. And then if you get more interviews, you'll be able to practice interviews more, because I noticed a huge difference between my first interview and my second and third interviews. You want to live your life as normally as you can, then approve your application a bit during this application cycle. And what I mean by that is continue your clinical experiences, or even get a clinical experience that's closer to anesthesia, like an anesthesia tech if you can. I know they're super hard to get, especially if you're not, like, you don't have the certification, and then maybe get more shadowing hours. I think also too, like, trying to keep up with your normal lifestyle, do the things you enjoy. Don't hinge all your happiness on this application cycle, your self-worth on this application cycle. Know that you are not defined by the results. Alright, if you like this video, then please watch my video about making your perfect AA school list. Super important, and I know you guys will love it. Bye guys.